Hi, we're Blake and Brittany, and we live in the southern Ecuadorian Andes, which you can see behind me.
So for this video, we wanted to address some common mistakes we see expats make.
And that we've made.
We were going to record inside in front of the Christmas tree, but it was so pretty outside. So here we are.
Yes, it's my favorite time of the year in terms of what it looks like behind us, right, in the mountains with just the clouds and the fog. It's always really cool.
It looks very South American sometimes, just very, I don't know, alluring. Just love it. We'll take rain and fog any day personally. So
yeah. Okay.
We wanted to address some common mistakes we see expats make.
And that we've made.
And some of these maybe apply more directly to the Ecuadorian context, but I'm sure many can be applied broadly across the world.
So these are mistakes that we've made ourselves and that we see other people make as well. And so we want to do what we can to help. So we are not coming from any place of superiority or anything like that, because we fail here daily. So
we'll also present some solutions, or what we see the solutions anyway. You may disagree with us. But.
All right, here we go.
So number one is an obvious one, right? We see foreigners here just not learn the language. And along with that, sometimes, unfortunately, there is the expectation that the locals should learn English, which the locals don't like that. It's not fair. It's not right that they should, that there should be an assumption that they should learn a different language in their own country. So that's kind of not an awesome thing. That rarely we see that second part, but the first part about not learning the language we come across pretty often.
Yeah, that's a fairly common thing in, I think, in a lot of the world, where people move and don't put in the effort to learn the language. I mean, you learn enough to get by, right? Maybe to get through the grocery store, but it really lessens how effective and like how much relationship you build, because then you're just kind of shoehorned into only dealing with people who speak your language, right? Which, which is good, but it helps to build goodwill with the community you're in.
Just trying,
and failing continually.
Yes. And never stop, never get to a point where I know enough, because that's easy. Like Blake said, if you can get around in the grocery store, you may think that that's enough, but we're fluent, and yet there's still so much more for us to learn.
I don't know anything. Now that I know Spanish, I don't know Spanish at all. Right? There's so much more to learn.
There's, yes, a lifetime of learning. Yes. And it's fun, right? Embrace that adventure of language learning, and lose the perfection mindset if that's one you have. It's like, oh, better not to speak at all than to speak poorly. It's like, no, that's not true. And you'll learn so much more the more you try, the more mistakes you make with it. You'll improve, and it's better to speak some, even poorly, than to not speak at all. So
I know actually a handful of different people who lived here and are very successful in their lives because they try. They don't speak great Spanish and things like that, but they try, right? And it makes all the difference, because people will come and they will try to help you in whatever way they can, if you try, right? That's the key.
Yeah, it's very honoring to make the effort, even if it's terrible.
All right, number two is either people are too trusting, or on the opposite end, they're not trusting enough, right?
Yeah, this is kind of an odd one. When you get to a new country, I think there's this tendency to assume, especially if you don't know anyone, the first people you meet who are nice to you are you want to latch onto them. They're your friends. And that can be for fellow foreigners or for locals. And maybe they're your friends, but you don't know that yet. You don't know them. They don't know you. And from a security standpoint, you need to be a little careful about who you really open up to, right? Initially, who you let in.
Sure, right. Initially, you're going to be very vulnerable, right? Because you won't know people and you won't necessarily know the language, depending on your situation. But yeah, I think that's just kind of a natural human tendency to be like, oh, latching on to someone who's helped you or has been kind to you in a moment where you feel alone.
I
It just
remember, sorry, when I first moved to Arizona after we got married, and I didn't have any friends, and there was this very nice barista at Starbucks who always smiled at me, and I so badly wanted to go and I asked her to be my friend, but it was like she didn't know me, I didn't know her. She was just kind, and so the same thing really applies anywhere where. Um,
yeah. Well, and so in the same vein, let's say it's years later. Um, you, I mean, just like with any relationship, you have to be wise with who you trust and who you share information with in your life with and open up to, right?
and
Um,
relationships take time. It doesn't mean
mhm.
that someone you connect with instantly isn't going to be your friend. Of course they might be, but let that build and just don't assume that necessarily that they're trustworthy either with your emotions, with your access to you. Just
And being a foreigner, right, like we've said many times in videos, you are more vulnerable and you are more of a target for people looking to, and it doesn't happen often here. Ecuador is much different than a lot of the world, but there are places for sure where people are looking for an easy target, right? You're easy to scam, you're easy to get something from. And so, on that vein, not being too trusting, right? Being trusting, but being trusting while being guarded.
yeah. So on the flip side, though, we see the opposite pretty often, actually, where I think coming from that place of vulnerability, people are quick to be suspicious and not trusting. And there's this mindset that like everyone's out to get you, everyone's trying to cheat you. That can be from like the bus attendant who is not trying to cheat you to anyone. You know, you
Anyone.
assume the worst about people, and we see that as well. And I don't know, I think it affects people's happiness. It causes anxiety,
Yeah, you're living. Yeah, I mean, your life will be full of anxiety because you think everyone's out to get you all the time.
especially if you don't speak Spanish and you're just
Yeah,
assuming, you just have that
that
assumption.
definitely goes
So,
back to the not learning the languages,
yeah.
not knowing what people are saying or doing or thinking or understanding the culture. Obviously, I could see how people get in that mindset more. And so, yeah, learning the language is huge to learn how to trust people here.
Yeah.
And like I said, Ecuador is nothing like other countries you hear about or stories you hear about. I mean, you have the occasional problem, sure, someone will take advantage or, charge you $1 more for something. We call it gringo prices, or what do they call that? I can't remember. It doesn't happen very often here, so it's not really something to be concerned about. But like, um, we know people and people who come down here who just everything and everyone is out to get them, and they're always overly
Yeah.
suspicious, and so that really breaks down trust, right?
Yeah. You've got to assume goodwill on behalf of humanity and extend goodwill yourself.
But be
So,
smart, right?
yeah,
Like,
smart,
yeah,
smart goodwill.
okay, smart goodwill.
So, number three, a mistake we see people make is they don't make the effort, or maybe they're just unable to like find their people, but in the context of Ecuador. And by that we mean like people who fall into your specific niche, like you would have back in your home country. Like for us, it's our church. That's our people, but we go to an Ecuadorian, Spanish language church. If it can be a sport, it can be an interest, a hobby, a volunteer thing, whatever is like your thing, but try to do it in a local context, at least to some extent, even without the language. You're going to have something in common with people, and it's going to make your life so much richer. It'll help your language development, it'll give you meaning, because we see people often only connect with other foreigners, which is comfortable. We get that. But for one thing, the foreign population is very transient, and so you can be constantly losing your community over and over again, which is demoralizing and destabilizing.
Yeah, I mean, it keeps relationships shallow
Yeah.
if you're not connecting. And so pretty much what we're saying is what we've experienced living abroad is that people are people all over the world, and so people here have the exact same interests that you do. You just have to find those people, right? And with the internet, it makes it much easier
Yeah.
today, with Facebook and everything that they use here. But yeah, find your people. So don't just live in isolation. Be brave. Go meet people. Go find people who like to do what you like to
Local
do.
people
Local people,
specifically.
yeah. Because yeah, there are definitely plenty of expats in our area, and like Brittany said, they come and go. Like they're in and out all the time. They don't have either they have a foot here and a foot at home or somewhere else. And so,
And that's not wrong. We're not judging that. We're just
yeah,
saying as far as relationships go.
again, this goes back to kind of all of our points so far. The more you submit yourself locally, the better and richer your life is.
Yes.
So. Okay, number 4, don't have their finances figured out.
And yeah, this is one we're definitely guilty of because we did lose our employment shortly after getting here, and it took a long time to get that taken care of. And really, I mean, we're still recovering in some ways. So I wish we had been more thinking ahead further as far as that went.
Yeah, I mean, obviously hindsight's 2020, and we could have done things differently. But this is a very common problem: is people, expats, etc. They'll travel, right, and try to do what they can to make money.
Piecing together different things.
Sure, and this is, I think, part of what flows into that transient nature, right? Is you have enough money to live for a little while, and then you got to go back home and make money, and then travel again. That sort of thing.
You know, compared to the United States, life here is more affordable, but it still costs something. And we do see sometimes expats just barely making it, which is fine. But it does, especially if you have a family, add, you know, an additional layer of stress that no one wants, of course. So, and then you have people on the other side who have a, you know, a stable full-time online job or maybe a great retirement or whatever. So this doesn't, of course, apply to everyone. Although the other thing is also having access to your funds at the timing you need. That's a tricky thing, is moving money in between banks. You can't just PayPal, for instance, or like transfer money from a US bank to an Ecuadorian bank. And we're always seeing people asking like, hey, if I give you cash, can you put money in, or can I PayPal you money and you give me cash? Because they have money, but they don't have access to it. That's even longtime people here. So
sure, there's just complexities and things you need to figure out. And I mean, today it's the easiest it's probably ever been.
Yeah, certainly.
Due to digital transactions. But it's still a challenge. But thankfully, Ecuador uses the U.S. dollar, and so that makes it easier. There's no exchange.
And we're also sort of in between economies, in that we kind of have, you know, feet in both ponds.
Feet in both ponds.
But, you know, if you're fully in the Ecuadorian economy, or, you know, then it's simpler for sure. Or I don't know.
But that's the other thing, right? Is being fully in the Ecuadorian economy, meaning you're not pulling an income from outside, means most likely you're starting your own business here.
Yeah.
Because depending on where you live, jobs are hard to come by, and if you don't speak Spanish, they're impossible, of course. So I mean, the vast majority of people we know who live here do something online.
Or they have their own business. They make products.
Or even have their own businesses back in their home countries. Can work from online, work from anywhere. So
we do have a video actually on our channel about securing remote work from abroad, which is not an easy endeavor.
It's not easy, and I fear it'll get much harder. So
but you can check that out if you're interested.
But figuring out your finances is a key area, and especially for visa stuff. If you want to stay in Ecuador, I mean, finances are a key part of how they judge whether or not they give you a visa, right? Because they don't want to bring in people who are going to be a drain on the system. They want people who can support themselves and support the economy. Contribute. And so definitely have those things figured out. Don't just fly by the seat of your pants, because it can be stressful.
So along those same lines, they may not have figured out, you know, a path to residency. And we also do have a video on this we did recently with our immigration attorney, because there are many visa options here, but we've actually, you know, we've seen many people have to leave because there either wasn't an option open to them, or they just didn't have it together as far as paperwork, or maybe they had something in their background disqualifying them. And, you know, that can be devastating and extremely expensive to move to a place, invest in a place, you know, fall in love with a place, and be forced to leave. So
yeah, and again, what we've talked about was it the decisions video, the 15 things we did before we moved?
Before departure.
Yeah. Anyways, I'll put that link up here. But in that video, we talked about all of the paperwork that we did here. Hello, Kat. All the paperwork that we did in the States before we even got here to make sure that we could stay here. It was a ton of work, and so we've known quite a few folks who have come here with none of that figured out, and then had to leave.
You got to admire it to some extent, but
Yeah.
also be dismayed.
Yeah. And I mean, it's hard, especially when you do it with a family,
Yeah, if it's
uprooting
just
a
you or
family.
a couple, it's not as taxing or not as devastating to leave perhaps, but like that would have been so expensive for us to have to uproot ourselves and leave the country. That would have been really sad too. So
Yeah. Number 6, us coming from more of a U.S. or European, I mean, less European, but more of the U.S.
Western
Western
mindset.
mindset of everything is transactional and like this is business. I'm here to do this and get this done, and you're going to provide me this. That sort of mindset is not how things go here.
No, if efficiency rules the day in the West, and that is not the case here. And if that's what you're expecting, you're going to be very disillusioned.
Yes.
And it's definitely going to impact not just relationships, but also how you get things done. So so this is relational, not transactional, and that extends to everything. As far as you step into a store
Where are
and
you
you need to
going?
be willing to greet greet people, chat. Not You're not just in and out. Maybe more in
Well,
the cities.
sure, and you can have more of that in the cities, but so Latin America, culturally speaking, across the board, is very relational, and a lot of the world is this way too. Very relational, and so it's all in who you know, who you're connected with, or who your friend has a friend, that sort of thing.
Which is really lovely, actually. If you have a trusted friend who's able to refer you to someone,
Hmm.
that's fantastic instead of having to do the legwork on that. But you kind of accept that that's how it is here. Um,
Yes.
Everyone knows someone who can do anything, right? And so,
Yeah, but
um,
and so relationships and putting time and effort into people matters way more than like just getting work done, I guess I could say. Sorry, cat. I like you, but and so again, Americans will come down here and will just get frustrated because they can't get things done. Even if there's
that's so
even if
true.
there's a process that you should logically be able to follow, and you should expect the
I
results
know.
from following that process. Um, if you don't know somebody, that process may take forever. But if you know someone, it may take an afternoon. So um, again, recognizing that relationships matter more than results, I guess I could say.
Mm,
No,
I don't know.
maybe we'll,
Results. I think more than the efficiency, though.
yeah.
And that means also that it's worth putting the time in for things that you may not put the time in the United States, like showing up. So yeah, that means showing up for things, meetings, mingas, which is something we've talked about, which are like community kind of work parties where everyone goes, everyone contributes labor, right, for something to get projects done. That's
Yeah.
a huge cultural thing that dates back to the Incas and not before. So um, yeah, it's a big showing up culture, and you don't outsource that so much. It means something to be present. So number 7 is, this is a, I don't know, maybe a sensitive one, but we see people come here with this like change complex. Like they're going to come here because they are passionate and enthusiastic about the difference they can make, which is great, right? You want to make a difference wherever you are, but they want to change something fundamental about the people or the culture here. And you have to be so careful with that. No matter how good intentioned you are and how positive your perceived change is. Again, like relationship is everything.
So yeah, so I think that's probably the bigger problem is people don't develop the relationships. They come in with an attitude of, "Hey, I know how to do this better, or we do it better this way in my
Yeah,
country." There is kind of a
it's just
condescension,
and
um,
patronizing.
patronizing way that some people can approach trying to create change here.
Yeah, we
Um,
see that.
yeah, and so
Like
that's
the way you've been doing things for hundreds and hundreds of years, that's not good. You should do it this way instead. And not that there's nothing to learn, but it's just the attitude. And
and recognizing that change comes slowly here. It's very much the Shire. Change comes slowly, but it comes through relationship, right? it comes through
Respect.
respect and that sort of thing. And so the more that you can build into the culture, the more that the things you have to say and the ideas you have and the things you want to change will be accepted.
Or maybe you'll realize that it doesn't necessarily need to be changed at all also. So
Sure.
the more you know people, the more you're like, huh, they do it differently, but you know what, that it's working. Different is not necessarily bad. So um, more than anything, it's a mindset, it's an attitude, and it can be really unfortunate when done wrong, when approached incorrectly. Can lead to bad feelings. So.
Well, I think what it does, well, too, but it also creates a dismissive attitude within the local population, because then they just kind of shut you out anyways. They're like, well, we don't have to listen to you because, you know, you don't have anything for us.
True.
Um, and so, again, I think it's all just in how you approach things. Because, I mean, there's plenty of people who come here with very good intentions and very good ideas of things that really would be beneficial. But they just have zero understanding of the culture and how the culture works and how to come alongside the culture.
Yeah.
And so it falls flat because I think that would happen in any endeavor anywhere. Right.
One example is it's very traditional here to burn like your dead crops. Is that right? Or
Well, they still burn fields, and agricultural burning is still very, very, very common. Which it's slowly but surely is changing. And we actually this year, because of the horrible fire that we had here, we're actually changing a lot of things on how people approach those kind of agricultural practices. I mean, it's happening from internal. It's happening within the Ecuadorian government and culture and the people that live here.
So number 8 kind of goes alongside that, and that is people don't always know how to help practically and in line with the culture. So there's a funny example here that, and again, people are good-willed when they come and they want to make a difference. And the dog population here is just roams, right? People let in the campo, in the countryside, dogs will just wander around all day long.
Dogs are outside all day long, and
Go on adventures.
they travel all over, and they're perfectly fine. Like we don't have an issue with like feral dogs and stuff. These dogs all have homes, and they're all
okay. Some are truly like abandoned or whatever.
well, sure, some
by
are,
and large,
but the vast majority of dogs are owned and cared for and have homes. They just cruise around all day together.
But you'll see things, like a foreigner will post on Facebook, like, "Oh, I rescued this poor dog. It doesn't have an owner," and then they'll be like, yes,
That's my neighbor's dog.
Yeah, oh, that's my dog. Can I have my dog back, please? From a local, because they just, that's not typically how it's done in like the United States, for example. Dogs don't typically roam, but that's just an example of sometimes Western approaches to helping don't translate well, and so.
Well, and one thing I'll say we've noticed here is that people will approach a problem and try to solve it without even understanding culturally how they deal with that same problem or how they feel about the problem.
Or if it is even a problem.
Yeah, that's true. But one of the things we saw a lot of is when we were doing a lot of our security work here, is that people would try to gear up and like start from scratch.
People being
foreigners, and completely disregarding how things work here and how your neighborhood is your first line of security. Your neighborhood is who you work with, all of that. And so working alongside the culture, understanding how people do things and how they approach things and how they understand things, you can actually come alongside and reinforce or help that way, right? Again, going back to the security example of how we didn't do anything here in our town apart from come alongside our local population and just reinforce and build on top of what they already do, how they already think about it and approach it. And like I said, if there's any changes that need to happen, right, that happens again slowly through relationship and discussion and respect.
But yeah, building off of frameworks that already exist and those understanding cultural things like, really the community kind of trumps the individual here, which is very different than in the United States, where sort of the individual reigns supreme. That's like a critical thing to understand, really for a lot of aspects of life. But when you're looking at trying to be helpful in some capacity, oh, and there are some really lovely things like during a disaster, maybe, or something, foreigners may want to step in and help provide meals, which is a lovely thing to do, but like provide meals that people here want to eat, not necessarily the meals you would eat as a foreigner. So that's kind of another, they're like, oh, what is this? Thanks. But, and people here are very polite and they're very appreciative. Again, I mean, your heart behind it matters a lot, but the practical application of it also matters. And so, but thankfully there are frameworks to build off of. And so that's what we suggest doing, and just pay attention to how things are done. We do encourage people to, be generous with your time, be generous with your resources. And don't be afraid to ask also. We've done that many a times. Like, I want to help. Is this appropriate? Or is it better for me to do so in some different context that I wouldn't have necessarily thought of? So
Yeah, again, and that ties right back into relationship and language. So, all right, number 9, always viewing themselves, expats, viewing ourselves as outsiders,
that's
right?
a mistake.
Keeping ourselves apart and kind of rejecting any form of assimilation to the local area culture, that sort of thing.
Yeah, there's almost like some people, maybe you're just standoffish by nature, which I totally understand, but like almost assuming you're not welcome at things, almost assuming you're on like the periphery and you have to be distant. It's like this affectedness, almost that, and the self-consciousness that comes from that keeps you apart. And like, it's not necessary here. It's honoring when you participate in things and include yourself. It's not like, oh, I'm not welcome at their festival. Like, you're always welcome in Ecuador at the things. And, it's wonderful when people participate.
Yeah, we get so many smiles and so much, like, people are so happy to see us at stuff when we participate
It's
in
normal
things.
now, though, thankfully. Like,
Yeah.
it's not even special.
We're not special anymore. But just like you said, it's obviously things aren't, there aren't our festivals, they're not our traditions. We're adopting some of these things.
Yeah, especially with kids in school. It's
incorporating
theirs.
some of
It's
these
our
things.
kids' like culture
But
almost now.
but yeah, always viewing yourself as an outsider instead of, again, trying to be part of the local community. And we also see at the same time trying to force your culture into this culture.
Yeah.
That's the opposite problem.
Yeah, we get, there's this weird, not, and maybe it's this way everywhere, but we hear a lot among the foreign community, like, let us mix our cultures together, like, and blend. But it's like, that's not how it works when you move to a new country, right? You don't impose your culture on others. Like, it'll mix naturally through relationship, yeah. But you don't like, let's have this event and celebrate the mixing of our cultures. It's like, well, how about we just take on the culture we moved to, and you can keep yours, but you don't force it on people at the same time. It's just kind of a funny mindset. It's not wrong. Again, it comes from a place of goodwill. It's just kind of odd. So,
yeah, and like I said, culture, especially in the internet age, cultures change and kind of absorb things from other cultures, and we see that happening here. And we, like I said, we love holding our Thanksgiving celebration that we have every year and inviting all of our friends and neighbors over, for them just to experience a bit of our culture, right? Things we do back in the United States, but we don't sit there and, like, I don't know how to explain it beyond, yeah, we're not trying to force our culture down their throats. But our culture will be with us always. Yeah. Brittany and I, for sure. But anyways, so yeah, don't view yourself as an outsider. Include yourself. Do things, and people will embrace you. They absolutely love it, and they want you to be a part of things. They don't want you to not be.
And they are curious about your culture too.
Very curious, for sure. Yeah. No, not that they're against it. It's just the manner in which you try to present it matters. Okay.
We're really, like, don't want to be offensive here. So we're trying to, that's not our goal at all. So.
Yeah. No, it's just, like you said, you see things often enough, and you see them
And
fail
because
often
we
enough.
speak Spanish and we have a very big Ecuadorian community, we hear from them their perceptions of people, and it's not usually like an angry perception. It's usually just like a, huh, your country people, they're interesting. Like, why do they do this? Why do they think that? And so we're able to shed some light and talk about the intention behind people and their feelings behind things. But so we know firsthand sometimes how some of this comes across. So.
All right, and the last one, number 10, they don't appreciate Ecuador.
Yeah, and that's always, I think, the saddest one for me is maybe they've moved here just for pragmatic reasons, um, and fail just to, I don't know, fall in love with the country. And they stay for many reasons. It's affordable, or I mean, moving is really expensive. Leaving, right? And that's so maybe they feel stuck for various reasons. But even if you are stuck, like there's things to love about this place, and um, life is life at the same time with its stressors and its things. And so it's easy maybe to get into a rut and just live without that sense of wonder and appreciation for where you've moved to, where you get to live. And sometimes we look out here at our view, and we're just blown away. Like, how is this our life? Or just yesterday, we went out to dinner, and the bevy of like fresh fruit juices for like $1 that you get to enjoy. Like, wow, this is amazing. And it's just a simple little thing,
There
but
are
mind blowing.
there are trade-offs in everything in life, right? And so you trade some things for other things, and so, but coming here, living here, I mean, it really, really, really helps when you appreciate what you have and where you are, and the blessing that it is to be here. Because, like I said, you can, if all you're doing is looking at it as through a pragmatic lens of, well, this is cheap and I can afford to live here very cheaply, etc. Um, it's never, it's always going to be, there's always going to be something that bothers you, and something to complain about. But that's life.
Yeah. And
So
I mean, some people like to complain no matter where they
true.
are. I mean, we
That's
all
true.
complain. We complain about things. But it's a mistake just in general, no matter where you are, even if you're in suburban, North America. So look, always something to be thankful for, always something to appreciate. And um,
Yeah. So find the things about Ecuador that you love and appreciate,
you
right?
can't think of anything. Well, yeah, go in search of it. Explore. This is a remarkable country. We just recently got back from a trip to Cuenca where we walked among Incan ruins. Like, so cool. It's so cool. Went fly fishing at 13,000 feet elevation. If you don't like those things, and there's, a gorgeous cosmopolitan historic city to walk around. There's food to eat that's amazing. Something for everyone for sure. So
Yeah, Ecuador does offer pretty much anything you could want, really, depending on where you want to be in the country. I mean, it has it all, really.
yeah, it's
Um,
amazing.
and so, yeah.
Again, we list these mistakes not from like our elevated position of
We are quite
awesomeness.
elevated at the moment.
We're on a mountain.
But no, these are humbly things that we have either done ourselves or we see often enough here that we thought were worth mentioning. So thank you so much for watching this video.
We'd love to hear your feedback in the comments.
Yeah, like and subscribe to Average Family Abroad. Visit our website at avagefamilyabroad.com.
We plan on doing a live stream leading up to the new year. If you have a topic in mind you'd like for us to address, we'd be interested in hearing that. Let us know.
Yeah, as well as things you'd like to see in the new year in 2026.
Any video suggestions, anything that interests you particularly?
Things that you're interested in seeing about here that we can show. That would be good. All right. Well, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you on the next one.